Welcome to the Clearwater Bomber Sports Show. I'm Bruce Kaufman.
I'm Wayne Dees.
And we're here to talk about the Clearwater Bomber fast pitch softball team.
We're going to talk about the 1970s today, Bruce.
Well, that's good. We've been going through the team history, and we've done the beginning, the 1940s, and then we did the 1950s, Wayne, and the Clearwater Bomber fast pitch softball team started winning world championships that were put on by the ASA in the 50s, and then in the 60s, last week's show, they continued their winning ways. So let's get started. What happened in 1970?
Well, in 1970, the first thing we want to do, we've got a picture. I want to honor a couple of umpires. This is Clement Brooks and Bill DaCosta.
Right.
And these used to guys show up, Friday night and Saturday night and do double headers. And sometimes they took a lot of abuse from the other teams, and sometimes they took a lot of abuse from the Bombers, but they were always pretty professional as umpires, and they did a pretty good job.
I think that's a great picture of the two umpires consulting with each other. And, I can understand when you've got a stadium, the Jack Russell Stadium in Clearwater, Florida, filled up with people from Clearwater who are Bomber supporters. Usually things go well for them because they usually win a lot of their games. But if they aren't, I can hear a lot of noise coming out of that stadium.
Right. Well, if they made a call against the Bombers, it was pretty rough. And the other teams were the one that really give them fits because they always thought the Bombers, were kind of homers and so forth. You know how it goes when you visit a team and you get a close call. It always seems like it's going against you. So it was pretty tough on those guys sometimes.
Well, and you can understand why the opponents would think that when they come into Clearwater, which is very famous, and they want to win, and they're trying to play against the team that's notably the winningest team in the history of fast pitch softball. The umpires come from the locale, and the opponents would occasionally consider that the calls were just to make sure the local team won.
Correct. I believe these guys were from Tampa, both of them.
Okay.
So, they weren't really from Clearwater, but...
And the Bombers always used ASA-approved umpires, and the umpires were always trying to do a good job. I remember when I was very active in the 90s that we had the same umpires game after game, weekend after weekend, but they were always very professional and always well-trained. And sometimes we don't actually know the minute rules that the umpires understand. And so we get upset because the bigger rule looks like...
That's a possibility. And what happens is, as an ex-umpire myself, you don't really favor a team, even though a lot of players on a team. I've umpired slow pitch softball for many years, and even though you were on, you knew the guys really well on one team, you maybe didn't know the guys well, you don't really think about giving them favoritism. You really don't. You make a call the way you see it, and that's pretty much the way umpires work.
Right. Well, I've never umpired a fast pitch softball game, Wayne, but I have been a quizmaster for the church Bible quiz program, and so when I'm asking the questions and ruling on the answers, I have the same attitude. I'm not there to favor one team or the other. I'm there to make sure that the players have a good experience and that they get the best ruling possible in a given situation.
Well, you were an umpire, really.
Well,
you were just umpiring a game compared to a softball game, a physical game compared to a...
There's a lot of similarities in any of the gaming industry, if you will. When you have an umpire, a referee, they're trying to make sure that the game is played fairly.
Correct. And getting back to what the people are interested in here on our show, the 1970s, things were changing a little bit for the Bombers. They still had, I think we have a picture of the team of the 1970 team.
Right. There's the 1970 Clearwater Bomber team. Pretty handsome dudes. Yeah.
You still had some of the older players on that team. Can you read the names there?
We've got Bond and Mason and Griffin and Haney and Moore and Tasker and Coach Hart and Manager Lewis and Weathersby and Parker, McMullen, Lynch, Rogero, Hoffman, Kuykendall, Dudley, and the bat boy was Curry.
And so you still have some of those names that we've been hearing through
Yes.
the 60s on the teams, but you've got, some Bonds and some Griffins.
Some new names are
Yep,
coming
some new
in.
names.
Yes.
It's starting to roll over, and those guys that have been playing 15 or 20 years are considering retiring.
So what happened in 1970?
Well, in 1970, guess who won the tournament? One of the teams that we've been bringing up over and over again from Stratford, Connecticut.
Oh, yeah, the Ray Bestos Cardinals, yes. And it was at Clearwater, Florida. So obviously the local fans showed up and they were hoping that the Bombers would win, but they didn't.
And if I'm not mistaken, Robestos won 2 or 3 times when Clearwater had the tournament in Clearwater, if my memory corrects me. I'm getting older, so.
We're going to do a little bit of that research, Wayne, but I think you're right because I've seen that name pop up quite a few times. I guess they got over-energized and they beat the Clearwater Bomber home team, or the Bombers lost to someone else, but we've got to research that, and I'm sure the ASA has that information.
Yeah, the Robestos Cardinals got it. Them or the Aurora Sealmaster team, and then Aurora changed names in my era in the 70s here to Home Savings from the Sealmasters.
Well, and in the history of fast pitch softball, teams would often name themselves after their sponsor, and when the sponsorship would change, the name would change, even though it would be the same city or the same ball players.
Yeah, but as far as winning consecutive, like 10 world championships or whatever, you change that name and it goes in the record book that the ASA is a different team.
Right. Well, and the other thing was the Bombers started out as the Blackburn Bombers because they were sponsored by Mr. Blackburn and the lumber company.
Correct.
Whereas by the time we got to the 60s, the 50s to the 60s, they had become a true Clearwater Bomber team because the city of Clearwater took over in their recreational department, and the team was named the Clearwater Bombers. So unlike a lot of other cities where the team was named after the sponsor, the team now, the Bombers, became the Clearwater team.
Right, and there was a lot of support as we've gone over in the past. I believe that happened in '49. They became the Clearwater Bombers from the Blackburn Bombers.
Right. The interesting thing is that in 1971, Wayne, the World Tournament went to Springfield, Missouri, but it was won by Welty Way from Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Right. What happened is Cedar Rapids picked up some way. They put together a national team and they had a couple of great pitchers. And all of a sudden you heard their names in the national tournament more and more, up second, third,
Right,
fourth,
right.
first. So
And that's a key to fast pitch softball, Wayne, is a good pitching rotation.
you have to have at least one good pitcher and a couple of good pitchers if you're going to become a national power.
Yeah, if you're going to go to a tournament, you can't be successful if you rely on one pitcher only because 2 reasons. One, the pitcher gets tired and doesn't quite have the same zip on the ball, and so the batters can take advantage of the pitcher. And the other one is you've got quite a few chances to see that pitcher. If the same pitcher is coming up game after game after game, the batters get used to their style and they can kind of figure out, okay, this is going to be a fastball, this is going to be a rise ball, just by the way the pitcher is standing.
And again, we've talked about the losers bracket. You get into the losers bracket in these tournaments where there's 20, 22 teams, you're going to play possibly a couple of games in one day.
Yeah, definitely. And the doubleheader doesn't really matter too much at this point in time because they're kind of used to it. But when you get into the triple header and the quadruple header on the same day or within a 24 hours, say Friday night game and then Saturday morning early, you don't have time to recover. But anyway, we're in 1972. So where did that tournament go?
Well, in 1972, the tournament was in Dallas, Texas. Now, the Bombers always like to play in Dallas, Texas, and they did pretty good, but the old nemesis.
Guess what? The Ray Bestos Cardinals won. So Ray Bestos Cardinals are from Stratford, Connecticut. The Clearwater Bombers, however, didn't do too poorly.
They finished second.
Yeah, okay, so
Runner-up.
runner-up. So they're, the name is still there, and they're still very competitive. So then in 1973, Wayne, do we have some pictures of some good Bomber players here?
Well, in 1973, we have a picture. They got into the tournament. These two guys here, Trueluck was a rookie, and Weathersby was the old veteran.
Okay.
But these guys, the Bombers were winning a lot of games in 1973. They had put together a great team. And Trueluck, these guys hit third and fourth in the lineup. Trueluck was batting .426.
Wow, that's an incredible batting average.
Weathersby was hitting .416.
And they're batting third and fourth. I mean,
they're batting third and fourth. How do you like to face that as a pitcher?
Right, for sure. Well, and just think about it. Many of these fast pitch softball games were won 1-0 or by one run.
Right.
And so you've got a batter that's number 3 who gets on base and a batter who's number 4 who drives him home, and you've got a good chance of winning that ball game.
I'm telling you. And these guys had 78 RBIs, and that was about 60% of the RBIs on the team.
Right.
They had 23 home runs between the two.
Right. And it's always fun to watch a home run if it's for your team. It's time for us to take a break, and we'll be right back to talk about the next year, 1974.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
This is the Bombers Sports Show, and we're back. Wayne, we were talking about the 1970s, and so in 1974.
Well, let's jump back, Bruce, a
All
little
right.
bit. Let's jump back a little bit in 1973.
All right.
The Bombers were having a very good year, and I believe we got a picture of one of the pitchers, Joe Lynch. He was having a vintage season for them.
Okay.
And they're down towards the end of the season. We're coming up on the Southeastern Regionals.
Okay.
All right, which is the qualification to go to the World Tournament. Joe had done very well. They played the Southeastern Regionals, and we've got a picture. I don't know how well it's going to show up of the actual all Southeastern all tournament team.
All right.
And we need if we've got to can get that up, John. But we put about 6 or 7 players on the all Southeastern regional team. And
Go to the next picture.
okay, that actually shows where the Bombers won the Southeastern Regional Championships, and the next stop was Seattle, is where the World Tournament was going to be.
Okay, so they were in the Southeast Regionals, and they had to qualify
Right.
in order to get into the ASA Nationals. But take a look at that team, as you were indicating, the all-tournament team for the Southeast Regionals. Bombers 9-0 against Montgomery, Bombers 12-0 against Cedar Hammock, Bombers 6-1 against Pepin District, Bombers 12-0 against Miami, and then Montgomery won 4-0, and then the Bombers came back and won 3-0.
Right. Montgomery came out of the losers bracket. Remember we talked
Right.
about the losers bracket?
Right.
And they beat the Bombers. What was it, 8-0 or something like that? But then the Bombers come back to win the actual championship. We placed 5 or 6 players on the all-tournament team.
Right.
And the first one is Joe Lynch. He was one of our pitchers from back in the day, and he threw the heaviest softball. I had to warm him up one time,
Right.
and it felt like I was catching a rock every
Wow.
time he threw
Yeah.
it.
And so then on the,
One of the catchers was Dick Paparo.
okay, that's a picture of Dick Paparo, the catcher. So, he got a lot of those rocks thrown at him.
I'm telling you.
So then the next picture is Moore.
He's one of our old veterans, Tommy Moore.
Tommy Moore, yes.
Remember his name coming
Right.
up?
And then we have Jim Vidatek.
Right. He was a third baseman,
Yeah.
and he made the all-tournament team.
And he's also on the Clearwater Bomber board now.
Yes, he is. He's one of our board members. David Grimes played his baseball at Florida State and became a fast pitch softball player, one of the best. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Uh-huh. Okay, and then there's Ron Weathersby.
Well, Ron Weathersby is one of the best home run hitters that ever played for the Bombers.
Okay. And so the team went from Montgomery, Alabama, Southeast Regionals to Seattle for the tournament.
Yeah, Seattle, Washington.
Well, that's quite a long way to go to play softball.
It is, and the manager of the 1973 Bombers was a guy named Bill Parker.
Okay.
And they thought that if anybody could win the thing, I think there was an actual cartoon type picture that we have that was in the Clearwater Sun, and it said, "Can Parker do it?"
Uh-huh. There you go. You see the cartoon there. Can Parker carve out the 10th title?
And there's Bill, probably
Okay.
coaching third base.
Okay.
He was a manager of Aerosonics in Clearwater,
Okay.
and they built airplane parts.
Right.
And
Okay.
I played for him. He was a tough guy. Mm-hmm. He managed for a couple years after that,
Okay.
and he was a no-nonsense, old-type manager.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, interestingly enough, if, he was involved in aeronautics, I would see why he would want to go to Seattle, because Boeing is based in Seattle, the big airplane manufacturer, Boeing.
Well, I don't know if he had time to do that. You never know. He made a visit
Yeah.
out to them while he was there.
Well, I grew up. Okay, I grew up in St. Louis area on the Illinois side, where McDonnell Douglas was a big manufacturer of airplanes in St. Louis, and it's very interesting when you have a culture where you've got a company that's that big as one of the employers in a community.
Yeah.
So we're down to the team picture.
Yep,
Yeah.
we've got a team picture of that 1973 team.
So how did the tournament go in 1973?
Well, the Bombers end up winning it out in
Very
Seattle.
good. So they've got their 10th national championship or world
Right.
championship now. And
Right.
that's the reason they got into the Clearwater, into the Bombers, the Guinness World Book of Records. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's the article that was in the Clearwater Sun there, stating that the Bombers had won the 10th national championship. And then we have another picture. I'm not sure if that was another different newspaper.
That last picture showed some young children at the airport greeting the Bombers coming home with "We love the Bombers" billboard. And here's another one. The Bombers is beautiful. The champions return after they took their 10th championship title. So that's excellent, excellent. These are most of these are articles that are out of the local newspaper, and at the time it was the Clearwater Sun.
Right, and the St. Pete Times used to give us great coverage also. But that's 10 world championships they've won. Nobody was even close to that back at
Right.
this time.
Right.
That was in 1973. So, someone may have surpassed the Bombers by now, I'm not sure. But back in the day, they were the dominating. That's 10 world championships in about 20 years.
Right. And the interesting thing is that there were some very credible opponents that they were going up against. And occasionally they would trade off between Ray Besto's Cardinals from Stratford, Connecticut, or the Aurora, Illinois team. But new teams have popped up across the country, and new opponents are showing up and trying to knock off the Bombers, if you will, or be successful in the Bomber tournaments. So in 1974, the national tournament was back in Clearwater again, Wayne. So what happened there?
And you know what? By
What?
golly, the Rebestos Cardinals didn't win it.
Oh my goodness. They had a streak in Clearwater there, but this wasn't it.
Yeah, there was a team from California, Guanella Brothers, and they had put together, if I'm not mistaken, in the old stories I heard, that they'd put together some professional baseball players and they got some pitching from somewhere. So
Right.
Guanella Brothers started kind of a little dynasty, and they were around for 3 or 4 or 5 years. You'd hear their name pop up.
Yeah, they were out of Santa Rosa, California, and they came to Clearwater for the tournament in 1974, and they won the tournament. And and you were talking about they pulled together some really professional baseball players and some good pitching, and they had a good team.
They did. That's what happened a lot of times with these teams. Pitchers would change positions, and it made a big difference, in where the competition they played and how good of a team they were. All you need is a couple of good hitters and a couple of good pitchers, and you can be a good fast-pitch softball team.
Well, talk about 1975, Wayne. I heard that was an important year for the Clearwater Bombers.
Okay, did we skip 74? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. In 1974, that was my first year.
Okay, sure, okay.
I don't want to forget that,
All right.
Anyway, I'm just kidding. In 1974, that was my first year. I think we got a beautiful picture of me being a young player there. But the national tournament.
We have a picture of Wayne Dees playing
Yeah, you
for
have
the
a picture
Clearwater
of Wayne
Bombers.
Dees, I think.
I think we can put up picture
And anyway,
picture 19.
the national tournament was in Hayward, there he is. What a beautiful looking guy. Look at that.
Yeah,
Nice hair. Look at that hair.
I like the locks. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to the ears, but I'm sure they're there
I'm
somewhere.
telling you, I don't know how I ever got that long a hair. But anyway, the
So-
World Tournament was out in Hayward, California.
Okay.
All right. And so we went out there, and we were playing in the game. And Bobby Quinn was pitching, and he was known a little bit around the leagues to throw an illegal pitch because he moved his foot that was on the rubber a lot. He kind of took a little slide step sometimes, and that foot would come off of the rubber. So we played this game. We're in like the 5th or 6th inning of the 7-inning game.
All right.
He's pitched the whole game. They get a man on third base, and the umpire calls an illegal pitch. And
So
the
what
runs-
happens?
the
What
run-
happens? What happens when the umpire calls an illegal pitch?
Well, the runners advance a base, and they had a runner on third. He scored, and we lose the game 1-0.
Oh, there's that 1-0 factor that figures in there. So, so basically, the game ended 1-0. How did that impact the tournament, Wayne?
Well, we got in the losers bracket, and I think we may have won like one other game after that, and then we lost our third or fourth game, and were eliminated.
Oh, okay. So that was in Hayward, California, and it was won by the Hotel Rising Sun from Reading, Pennsylvania.
Right, from Reading, Pennsylvania. And you know what happened? Reading, Pennsylvania put together a team with a pitcher. I don't know where this guy came from, but his name was Ty Stofflet.
Oh, okay.
You
Yeah,
remember that
I remember the name Ty Stofflet.
Yeah, he was
yes.
one of the best left-handed pitchers ever, and you're going to start hearing of Reading, Pennsylvania again in these tournaments.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
Enjoy tranquil seclusion in an eco-lover's paradise. Paddling through the mangroves where the only sounds you'll hear are the sounds of nature. Because you deserve to relax on vacation, visit Pasco County, Florida.
Hi, my name is Joe Stalteri. I'm one of the owners of Complete Care Systems. At Complete Care Systems, we do carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, tile and grout cleaning, tile and grout sealing, wood floor and laminate floor deep cleaning, as well as stripping and waxing of linoleum and vinyl floors, and a whole lot more. We also run daily deals and special, which you can find at CompleteCareSystems.com, or simply call Tricia up at 727-364-5158, and she'll answer all your questions and give you over the phone free estimates. Or she'll send me out to your home or office to give you an on-site free estimate. At Complete Care Systems, we don't cut corners, we clean them.
Welcome back to the Clearwater Bomber Sports Show. And Wayne, I think it's time for our Guess Who segment.
Right, our Guess Who segment is always a segment that we interview some of the older players, and then we don't tell you who it is, and we see if you can figure out who it is, and then we'll come back and tell you who it is in case you don't know at the end of the interview.
All right, here goes the Guess Who section.
Yes, I was very fortunate, I think, by the way, I'm a hometown product. I've lived here all my life. I went various places for college, where I received my BA and 2 masters, which I'm very, very proud of. Ron Weatherby in '76 come to Georgia, where I was finishing one of my masters, and kindly said, "We need you, and basically you're a franchise player we want, and we want you to come back home." And I felt like it was a very honor. I've always felt like the Clearwater Bombers was the greatest softball team that's ever been assembled on earth. I do feel like that, however, if you played against the Bombers, you kind of hated them. But if you played with them, you loved them, and you did everything that you could to bring out the best and protect the legacy of what they had brought to softball.
Okay, Wayne, that was one of my good friends. When I took over as the chairman of the board of the Bombers, it was from this gentleman. So what's the answer to guess who?
Well, his name is Mitch Harder.
And Mitch was well known for pitching too.
Mitch was a pitcher, and he was, like I say, a local product. He came from Largo High School. He played in the Bombers, he mentioned it, the farm league that they had for a couple years. And he was one of the best pitchers to come out of that league. And over his career, he pitched for the Bombers and against the Bombers. And you heard him mention that, you know, he hated the Bombers when he didn't play for us. He loved us when he played for us. So,
well, it's kind of like sweet and sour at the Chinese restaurant.
I'm telling you.
I know, having faced Mitch in the batter's box, he was a good pitcher, and I know he did a great job for the Bombers, and I know he did a great job for the opponents of the Bombers. I believe Mitch is in the International Softball Sports Hall of Fame.
I know he's in the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame, because Georgia was where he went when he left the Bombers, and he pitched them into the World Tournament many times, and he pitched them through the World Tournament, and he pitched almost every game that they played.
Well, I believe that he also pitched for the Clearwater Bombers over 45 team that was called the Bomber Colts 45.
He did that. You know more about that than I do. It was in the 1990s, and you guys won a national championship, didn't you?
Yes, we did, with the Colt 45 team that were all Bomber players, and it was here in Clearwater. So the Bomber over 45 team.
You know what? We'll do a show on that to give you guys credit. Anybody who wins a national tournament needs credit.
Well, that'll be a lot of fun, you know. And the interesting thing is some of the names that were in that tournament and on that team are starting to pop up in the history of the Clearwater Bombers that we're doing now.
They are. I want to say one other thing. You guys, in 1992, was that when y'all started? Y'all tried to bring back the Bombers in a big way.
Yeah, Mitch was 92, 93, and then I took over 93, 94. And, you know, we were trying to keep the Bombers alive. We were trying to bring them back in a big way. And in a couple segments, we're in the 70s now. But when we get into the 90s, we'll talk about some of the fun stuff that happened in the 90s. But Mitch was one of the best Bomber supporters during the last few decades. And we unfortunately lost him a year ago.
Yes.
But we fortunately did record that video for you and some other parts of the interview that might pop up in other segments of this show. But Wayne, you know, talking about some of these players' backgrounds, didn't I hear you say that you actually didn't play fast pitch softball until you came to play for the Bombers?
No, the first year I ever tried fast pitch softball was at 1975.
And in 1975, prior to 1975, where did you play? Where did you play baseball?
Well, I was in the St. Louis Cardinal organization. I signed out of high school to play professional baseball, and I played from 66 to 71 and was all up and down the Cardinal organization from rookie ball. I went up to AAA, And I had spring training 1 year with the St. Louis Cardinals in 1970.
Well, in spring training that 1 year in 1970, where did they spring train?
Well, it was in St. Petersburg, Florida, over at Al Lang Field. And
Yeah.
unfortunately for me, they signed a guy named Richie Allen.
Oh, okay. The interesting thing is that was during a period of time that I might possibly have been watching the St. Louis Cardinals play at Al Lang Field in St. Petersburg, Florida.
It's a possibility, but I didn't get in any spring training games because when they signed Richie Allen, they sent me back down to the minors, and that year I played at AA Little Rock.
Okay. So, what prompted you to switch from baseball to fast pitch?
Well, a guy named, I think, David Grimes and Ray Trueluck had heard about me, and I believe they prompted Paul McMullen, if I remember the story right. Weldon Haney was a manager, Paul McMullen was a coach. They called me and they said, hey, we'd like you to come down and try out. So I went down in the spring and went to practices with the Bombers and tried out.
And obviously, because history is in front of us, they liked what they saw and you started playing for the Clearwater Bombers. So we're going on to 1976. What happened in the 1976 tournament?
Well, in 1976, you remember us talking about a team with a guy named Ty Stofflet
Yes.
from Reading, Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Well, what they did, they had put together a great team. So they decided to have the tournament in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and they were actually called Hotel
Rising
Sun.
Okay.
But that was the team that Ty Stofflet played for, and they put together one of the national powers of fast pitch softball.
Okay, so they had won in 1975 at Hayward, California, and then they hosted the tournament the next year and wowed the local fans by winning again. Hotel Rising Sun from Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, my bad. They were the host team, but guess what happened to them?
They got knocked out.
That's right. Guess who?
Robestos.
Ray Besto's Cardinals from Stratford, Connecticut. I misread my notes there for a second. Sorry, folks. And so here we go again. Another one of those, if you're the hometown team, don't expect to win the tournament.
But you know what happened?
What
Let's
happened?
jump to 1977.
Oh, okay, 1977.
And the tournament,
Was in Midland, Michigan. And once again, I indicated, we've been there, I've been there. It's a great...
we went there 1 year that we played. I think that'll come up in the near future. Guess who won it?
Let me see. Revenge is sweet, right?
Yes.
Okay, so was it the Hotel Rising Sun?
Yes.
Well,
But I think they had changed their name
now there you go.
to Billiard Barbell.
Billiard Barbell, and they're from Reading, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And they have a sponsor change and they have a name change, but it's basically the same team.
And really, to show you how fast pitch softball is, they had one great pitcher, Ty Stofflet. And he pitched almost every game. They didn't lose, so they were in the winner's bracket. And in the World Tournament, if you stay in the winner's bracket, you play a game now, and maybe a day or two later, you play another game. A day or two later, you play another game. So it's not very tough on your pitcher.
Yeah, and so you're rested up, and so the pitcher can play in another 7 innings. This isn't the 9th inning, unless, of course, it goes into overtime because nobody scored.
Right.
So anyway, we've got the Billiard Barbells team from Reading, Pennsylvania that wins in 1977. But then, Wayne, in 1978, something interesting happened.
Well, the board members always changed a little bit with the Bombers, and
Right.
somebody decided that we needed a logo, a
Right.
recognizable trademark type logo.
Right.
So someone went out and they hired a guy, and this was the new logo that ended up on the caps and the uniforms. A guy named Bill Mosier designed it. That's Bill there. And this became our logo for a few years.
Right. And even back in the 1990s, when I was chairman of the board, we used that as one of the logos that we promoted during that period of time.
Right. The Bombers moved away. They had the old Cincinnati C
Right,
for years,
right.
and they decided to move away with that with this new logo.
Well, you know, a lot of times teams have a rebrand, if you will, and so the Bombers have a rebrand in 1978. So there's a picture number 21, Hornbeck.
Right. Sonny Hornbeck was a new guy that came from the Midwest, and someone had saw him at one of the tournaments. He had done really well, so he was a new player that they brought down.
Okay. All right. And so we're talking about 1978. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
We're back, and we're talking about 1978. And so, Wayne, some of the players on the 78 team, they had waited in the wings, so to speak, and they were now starters on the team.
Right. Really what happened, Bruce, was we started getting new players come in.
Right.
We also had people that you said that had been on the team waiting their turn. Sonny Hornbeck, we were just talking about him before the break. He was one of the guys they brought in, number 33 right there. And he was a big, strong guy. He used to hit a lot.
Okay.
But when he got down here, the Bombers had such good players that he just became a pitcher mostly.
Okay. That's pretty interesting that the pitcher was a hitter. So then we've got a couple other starters that made a name for themselves in '78.
Right. Buck De La Torre had been with the Bombers a couple of 3 years, but he was not really the starting catcher. But he had a good series against Montgomery when we were talking about the Southeastern Regionals. There's Buck, rounding first, going for a double. And he became the regular catcher for the Bombers.
Okay. So then we've got a picture about a player by the name of Grimes.
Right. David Grimes, as I mentioned before, he played at baseball. He was a baseball player like me.
Right.
He played at Florida State, and he became one of the best shortstops, and then he became an outfielder. He was a versatile guy. He could play anywhere.
And I know Bobby Quinn was one of the best pitchers that the Bombers had over the years, and there's a picture of Bobby Quinn.
Bobby Quinn had to wait his turn, but when he got here, he did a fantastic job over the years, and Bobby's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, okay. Some of these players were so famous locally, they had their own fan clubs.
Right, they really did. And one of my best friends, Gary Kane, he was also a Tampa PD. One night we showed up and these people are up there. And I asked Gary, I said, Gary, how much did you pay? You had a lot of people you had to pay to go up there and get that thing done that way.
Oh, well, the interesting thing is Gary Kane is on the Bomber board, and he's helping us try to get the museum started.
He's our vice president. I think we got a shot of Gary there. And,
Yeah, so, the interesting thing is that every one of these players had people from the community that loved them and supported them and encouraged them and sometimes hired them. And so it was fun to see that play out as I've watched the Bombers over the years.
Right, they did. You got your favorite players on certain teams. If you watch the Cardinals, and I'm sure you had, who was your favorite player on the Cardinals?
On the Cardinals, well, I hate to admit it, was Lou Brock. He should have been a Cub, but the Cubs traded him to the St. Louis Cardinals, and he went on to stealing more bases than anybody else. It was.
Well, he was one of the nicest guys I met when I went to spring training. A lot of the old veterans, you come in as a rookie, they don't associate with you. He talked to you like he was your brother.
Right. And he invented the Brock umbrella, where you had an umbrella on your head.
Was he the artist too?
He might have been.
Flood? Kurt Flood might have been.
Kurt Flood. Then Stan Musial, and and later became famous as Musial and Big E's restaurant there in St. Louis. And,
well, Lou was one of the fastest guys I ever saw.
Yeah. It's amazing you decide to like or not like someone, but then when they respond back and they're very appreciative of your support, it makes a wonderful relationship.
It's funny how you choose your favorites.
That's right. It is. It definitely is. So as we go around the history of the Bombers, what happened in 1978 at the tournament?
In 1978, the tournament was in Springfield, Missouri, and they went. It was billiard barbell.
Okay, so we lost, but billiard barbell from Reading, Pennsylvania, won that tournament. Did we get any place in that tournament?
I think we finished second.
Yep.
We got in the losers bracket early. We went through the tournament and we ended up playing them, and we lost to Reading.
Another one of those famous seconds. And here we go to a video about the Oldsmar Little League.
All right, take on now, Logan. Go, you. Check where you hit it. Got a boy.
Well, let's see what we can do. What we can do.
Hey, we're out here at the Oldsmar Little League. They're playing East Lake tonight. You folks fans of Oldsmar? What team you rooting for?
Indian.
The Indians for Nicholas.
And do you have a special player?
Nicholas Weiss, second base.
Okay, what number is he?
39.
39, yeah. 39.
Getting out of the car too fast or dehydrated. It's hard to look back myself out for you.
Okay, then take your time, bud.
We're out at the Oldsmar Little League tonight watching Oldsmar play East Lake, and I found a couple of fans here. Can you tell us your names?
My name is Scott Morrison, my wife Danette Morrison.
Hello.
Your team you're rooting for?
We're here rooting on the Oldsmar Indians.
And do you have a special player?
We do. Our son, Caden Morrison, is one of the players out here.
What number is he?
Number 8.
Y'all getting ready for the game?
Yep.
All right.
Okay, Wayne, that was awesome. That was the video from the Oldsmar Little League. And I thought it was exciting, you know, considering that we've been talking about how some of the Bomber players during this 1970s era came from professional baseball. Maybe those are the new Clearwater Bomber players in the future.
You never know. I know that a lot of the people that played fast pitch softball were ex-baseball players from college, the minor leagues, you know, or...
Yeah, and so we're trying to memorialize with our virtual museum, the Clearwater Bomber Sports Show, a lot of the history of the Clearwater Bomber legacy, preserve it for future. But we raise money once a year by having a golf tournament.
Right, our golf tournament's coming up on May 19th. It's at Wentworth Country Club in Tarpon Springs. And you can give me a call at this number, and or Jim Vitatech. He sets up the golf tournament for us, puts the groups together, and he's done a good job over the years. But call either one of those numbers. Our golf flyers are out, and they'll be being distributed here in the near future throughout Clearwater.
Well, and the interesting thing, Wayne, is that as far as golf tournaments go, the Clearwater Bomber Tournament is still one of the least expensive but most fun and most rewarding golf tournaments around.
Everybody has a great time out at our golf tournament. We showed a video on the last show. If you didn't see it, then go back and watch that show,
Right.
which you can do. And we have so many prizes, and they're great prizes.
Right. Well, talking about great prizes, we have a tush kush here. And
tush kush?
Tush kush,
That don't
yes.
sound right.
Well, what it is it's to be put on your seat in your golf cart. And this is, you know, different pictures of different golf clubs around the country. And you put it on your seat, and it keeps your legs from getting burned when the seat gets hot because of the sun. It kind of cushions the seat a little bit. And
That's what suntan lotion's for.
Okay, but the tush kush is going to be one of the prizes that we give away to the lucky winner at the golf tournament.
A tush kush. I thought the tush was the other side. Anyway.
So anybody that wants to volunteer to help us with the museum, we have tons of boxes of memorabilia, newspaper articles, magazine articles, trinkets that we want to log into the museum and put on display.
If you enjoy the history of the Bombers, that would be a good thing to volunteer for, because we've got pictures, we've got newspaper articles, And you'll be surprised. Every time Gary Kane comes over to my house and helps me with some of these videos, I can't get him to do nothing because he's looking at the history.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was just reading the yearbooks last night. This is 1997. We have 1996. And there's a lot of history in these books. So if you have the yearbooks, you can look it up and check us out and make sure that our history is correct. If you've got information of your own, you can call us and give us that information.
Bruce, I do want to mention that we need sponsors for this show. If you like the show, you know, it does cost us, and we would like to have sponsors. Please call either one of those phone numbers or a board member and, you know, let us know.
Membership in the club is $25 per person per year, $50 for a couple or a family, and $100 for a corporation. So you could be a sponsor or you can be a member, and we have monthly Bomber Blasts. We're going to announce our Bomber Blast for this next month. In the next video segment, we'll have a restaurant location, and we get together for a lot of fun, talking, catching up with each other. You know, we're having a lot of fun doing this, Wayne.
Right. I'm going to actually put together a video of or a slideshow of past Bomber Blast.
Right.
And you'll see how it goes.
Sure. All right. I'm Bruce.
And I'm Wayne Dees.
And this is the Clearwater Bombers Sports Show. Thanks for watching, and tune in again next time, Saturday at 12 noon.
Hope you enjoyed it.